Welcome to today's session. Again, we'll be talking about basically how you can connect Power BI to Stratum using our new Power BI connector. So we'll talk a little bit about what is Power BI, how can we use that to connect to Stratum with the Power BI desktop, and to basically leverage the existing views and viewer that you have today with Viewer. So if you're not using Viewer, you won't be able to use the Power BI connector per se. So that's one thing you'll need to have is obviously you'll need to have Viewer implemented. So let's talk a little bit more about that in detail. Then we'll go into a demo, have some questions, and then we'll conclude the session. What is Power BI? If you're not familiar with Power BI, it's basically a Microsoft reporting tool, and it's really more than that. It's quite a few things, but certainly you can build some really powerful visuals using the Power BI desktop. And as you can see here is basically a Microsoft topology of the Power BI solution. Where we fit in here would be on the on-premise data. As you may or may not know, viewer analysis, a viewer actually reads the data from SQL Server analysis services. So that would be a piece that where viewer is actually reading that data. Now we can actually have the Power BI desktop talk to that database via the viewer application as more or less like a middle ground or a middleware piece. But as you can see, Power BI, you can access the reports, you can publish them up to the cloud, where then they become available to other users. You can integrate it with other applications. You can get to it from mobile applications. So it's quite powerful, no pun intended, and it's very cost effective. There's some things that are very good about this reporting visualization tool. It's pretty easy to use for building these types of reports. So you can pick it up pretty easily if you've been in the business of putting together reports and using reporting solutions and tools. You'll pick this up pretty quickly. It's pretty cost effective. It's pretty cheap. As a matter of fact, there's a free version of the Power BI desktop that actually gives you quite a bit of options. So it's pretty cool in terms of what you can do with minimal cost. On top of that, it's pretty powerful. You can actually do some fully customizable visualization options. So it's got a plethora of different types of visualization pieces in it that you can visualize the data using different types of graphs, cards, all kinds of different types of things. Just want to make sure I'm admitting everyone here. So basically, and the collaboration is simple too. As you could see or saw on the previous slide, you can upload these reports and make them available to the other users, that have access to the cloud. So. And even Microsoft provides a library of custom visualizations. And from what I've read and researched, you can actually build some of your own. I haven't tried it myself. I've been kind of testing using the free version, but from what I can see, that you can actually do some extensive things with the visualizations. Might need the full version of that, but nevertheless, it's powerful. So essentially, if you need a custom report from Stratum, this would be a pretty good option. You do have SQL Server reporting services as an option as well, and that is actually something that we're building a connector for as well. So you'll be able to not only use Power BI, but in the near future, we'll have a connector so that you can actually build reporting services reports directly against the Stratum application. And on that topic, we also have an Excel plugin that's coming out similarly that will again allow you to connect to the data, to the Stratum application. At a high level, this is kind of these are the different pieces that we're talking about. So you've got the Power BI desktop or any type of Power BI desktop in place, whether it's the free version or not. Um, and then you'll have a couple pieces in play here. On the bottom there, you can see Stratum Viewer. As I have indicated, this is a requirement. And then in the middle, there would be the connector, which would allow you to then connect your desktop, the Power BI desktop, to the Stratum Viewer and gain access to all the different views that are available within your viewer application. So in all honesty, it's pretty simple to set up and install. And as long as you have viewer in the mix, it's real easy and quick to get you going on this. And hopefully you'll see that in a second. So here's a snapshot of the Power BI Navigator, where I've been able to go ahead and make a connection to the URL of my viewer application. So again, similarly, you would have the URL for your viewer application here, where then you would make a connection to the application. And then as you can see, you would then be able to gain access to this, the views that are available within the viewer application. As you can see here, I've got one highlighted called PBI Comparative Sales, where over here to the right, it gives me a quick snapshot of the data that's within that particular view. And we're going to bring that view into the Power BI desktop as a data set. So the actual viewer view is going to basically work as a data set, as a bridge to the actual data within the analysis services database. So again, you'll be able to just connect to your viewer environment. You might connect to existing views. You might develop new views for more PBI reports. And again, you'll be able to connect to as many views as you want, as long as they exist, of course, and be able to gain access. And also on top of that is security. You'll only be able to see the views that you have access to. So in the end, when you're in the Power BI desktop, you can see making a connection to the Stratum environment. You then have the connection to those views. So here to the right, I can see that I've got some things available to me from that view. Okay, so you'll have, once you connect to these views, you'll get access to the measures and to the different levels and descriptions that you have that are basically within that view. Okay, so let's take a look at this in a demo, and we'll take some questions. At the end of the day, you can always contact me. My contact information is right there. If you are interested in pursuing this powerful tool, and other contact or research information down below, some of our URLs. Customernet.sylvan.com is always a great place to go and get information for your Stratum applications. And then I don't know if you've known this or not, but we do have a YouTube channel out there. So make sure you visit that and take advantage of all the different self-help tutorials that we have out there. Okay, now I'm going to flip over to my Power BI desktop and basically go into how we could feasibly use Power BI to build some reports into Viewer. First of all, here's Viewer. As you can see it on my version of Viewer, I've got the new dashboarding capability here present, where you can now, as you may or may not know, you can string together views now into a dashboard very easily with the latest version of Viewer. So that's available, and then we also want to make available to us, well, let's take a look at some of these Power BI reports. So right away, if we go into Power BI, I can run some of my reports that are available to me, for instance, my Stratum sales report, where I can go in and run that report, and it basically runs the report. And so basically, this is one of the reports that we've built using the Power BI connector. This is actually talking directly to my viewer environment to get the data for this specific report. And well, I mean, I don't know if you've ever used Power BI before, but it's pretty slick. I mean, if I highlight certain things like my Farm Fresh brand, everything else kind of adjusts on the screen. You'll notice that my heat map down here for my sales reps, I can kind of see, you know, some of my larger reps out there, what they're doing, and notice how it's half of Patrick's sales. So right here from a visual perspective, I can see that my largest rep, this is basically half of his sales. So it's a big, big brand for him. Other reps are certainly selling it. My second to a rep here is selling a lot of it. And if you hover over these, you can get some more detail. So it's really cool. Great interface. This is why a lot of people, of course, are using it. You can build a report as such, so you can not only see amount, you can trigger over or tap on your units and see what the units number is as well. So coming back out, I can then maybe highlight Patrick Hurley to see what his sales are. Indeed, Farm Fresh seems as one of his top products, but he does have a nice mix of products going across the board here. Another really cool thing is, well, let's take a look at a different dashboard. If I go back to and look at global demand, this one has a little bit more of a inventory manufacturing feel to it. Notice that I've got my WIP here. I've got some other things, inventory that are available to me, customer service numbers available. And I can see there's some inventory challenges with this particular account. One thing you can do with the Power BI report is actually drill to more detail. For instance, I can actually drill applesauce here. If I want to take that to another view or drill to more detail, it will then pass the parameter of that particular product to my view, and then I've got more detail at my fingertips. So again, the Power BI report is only going to give you some of the story. It may not give you everything. And that's where viewer can come into play and start providing that detail and that simple ability to make these drill downs or drill to more detail capabilities possible. So here I can see applesauce. I can see what my inventory is. I can see any open POs or open orders, my demand, my forecast, and then what I have for available to promise. And as you can see out in the future, well, I'm going to run into some problems. So the detail is pretty good here in terms of what I can see, and then I could just drill that to even further, and it keeps drilling me to further detail, right? So now I can actually see the open orders for that item and all the customers that have past due and current open orders. So I've got some work to do here, you know, and from that I was able to glean that all from my, starting from my dashboard, where then I can then drill to other areas of detail if I want to see how the sales are performing in my markets. Again, drilling to yet another view, getting more detail available. In this case, I could see how that applesauce sales is selling across my different markets. And now you're in the world of viewer, right? You can actually now start drilling down to more detail, getting more detail in your view. And obviously, if you're used to using viewer, this is a snap. This is something that you're used to using and being able to get the detail and even more detail behind some of these Power BI dashboards. So how does this work? How do we put these reports together? How do we connect it to the viewer environment? Well, let's take a look at the Power BI interface itself. Right now, I'm looking at the Power BI desktop. I'm running the free version on my particular desktop, and I've already made a connection to the viewer environment. So here, as you can see, I've got a couple of views in the mix that I can dip into for data for my reports and my different visualizations. So, you know, how does this work? Well, basically, you'll have a piece that you'll connect to. So you'll notice that Power BI has different areas of data sources, common data sources that you'll use. Of course, Excel is right there on top of the list. And certainly you can use Excel, you can use Viewer to you know, spit out data into Excel spreadsheets, and you can use a series of Excel spreadsheets, but then, you know, you're back to square one. You've got a series of Excel spreadsheets. This thing grows into a monster and it becomes cumbersome. Well, in this case, then you can actually connect to the actual Power BI connector, which will then connect to you. This will then connect you directly to the viewer environment. So you don't have all these Excel you know, files out there. You've actually got the capability of connecting to already existing views, and then you'll be able to then connect to Power BI. So you'll notice that if I want to get data, I go into my get data sources, and if I go into my other, you'll notice that I've got a connection there available to me for my Sylvan Stratum views. So this is the connector piece. This is something that you would install on your desktop, and so that you would actually be able to make that bridge to the viewer environment. Once you have that bridge available, if you'll notice, I can go into my recent sources and I can see that I've got already a connection defined to my Stratum viewer environment. So if I go in and make that connection again, notice how I can then get access to all the different views that are available in my environment, and there's a lot. How can I pare this down? Well, you have a filter area up here where I can then filter out the views that I don't want to see. As a matter of fact, I might have some views out there that have this prefix, and then I can quickly find it, select it, and notice how the Power BI Navigator then gives me access to the view, shows me a quick preview of the data within my view. And I'll show you what this view looks like. As a matter of fact, we're going to add some things to it so then we can bring more stuff into my Power BI report. But I've already got that view here, so I've already got a connection to it. And like I said, this is basically a bridge to that particular view. So, you know, what would happen if I wanted to go in and add in perhaps a gross margin measure? I don't have that available. All I see here are sales amounts and sales units. So how can I as a user do that? And again, this may not be for every user, but for some of your analysts, some of your view administrators, this would probably be a good thing for to have, that they can actually push some of these dashboards, these wonderful looking visualizations out to your executives and some of the other analysts that you may have in your enterprise. So let's take a quick look at viewer. If we go back into the viewer environment, what does this view look like? So let's take a look. So I have that view available. It's right here called PBI Comparative Sales. And as you notice, it's really nothing crazy. I mean, it's a view. Notice how I'm drilled in all the way to the end level, which is my product family level. So all of these levels, their descriptions will be available to me now within my Power BI connector, and I will be able to leverage these fields within my connector and bring them in as pieces of data for my data visualizations. Look, notice my measures over here to the right. They've already been built. If you notice, I can go in, and if I look at the time ranges here, they're built as such to give me a slice of time. Notice also I've changed the headers because you do want the headers to be static. So, and the reason for that is that you want this connection to maintain its integrity. If I change a header here, it's going to cause some issues in my Power BI report. So the headers do have to remain static. That is something, and there are a few other ground rules, but that's one big one, and you want to make sure that you build your report so that it has static and self-explanatory headers to them. Now, I want to add in gross margin. So I know I have that available here as a hidden measure. But again, all you would need to do if you did not have this is to add it in as a measure item and then adjust your header accordingly. If I go in and show this and then apply that, I now have the gross margin measure available in my view. Now I need to save that so that it becomes part of the view. So if I now toggle back over to my Power BI desktop, how do I then bring that into my list of measures? I know I have a connection to that view, but now it's still not available to me. Well, notice there's a refresh button up here. So if I click on that and I have the proper connections in place, I'm on the network, or I have connections to this URL, notice how it's actually talking to the viewer application, and it's retrieving anything new, different, such as that measure, so that I can then start building visualizations on my new measure. And voila, there it is. So my gross margin dollar year to date, the measure is now available to me right here. If I wanted to take this report, maybe add in a pie chart, and we'll add that in here maybe. We'll adjust it accordingly. And so now how do I get that gross margin dollar year-to-date amount in there? Well, I just drag and drop that in, and then I can also bring in maybe product family. So now I've got a gross margin visualization, a pie chart that's available to me that I just built on the fly using my gross margin measure that I just added to the view. And that view, as you can see, we have a connection to that view using my Power BI desktop. So as you can see, you can kind of drive what you can bring into your Power BI environment by using Viewer as a middleware ground to gain access to all the data within Stratum. And as you can see, you can adjust this accordingly so that you can adjust these views, add more to them, and create even more fantastic looking visualizations using Power BI and making a connection directly to your Power BI, your viewer environment, and leveraging what you have today in the viewer environment. So, this is something that you can gain access to if you are licensed for it. There is a license for this piece. It's actually part and parcel with the broadcast server license. So if you're already licensed for the broadcast server, you're entitled to it. So that's something that you could be able to get today if you wanted to, and download it and start working with it immediately. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.